Welcome you all to our March 2025 breakfast briefing. If you can jump to the next slide. I wanted to, before we get started, remind everybody that we need to celebrate the wins. And on Tuesday, we had a great win. We were able to flip a Senate district in Pennsylvania that has been held by Republicans for over 40 years. And we did this during Women's History Month, no less. So just a quick reminder that during this month, we only have a few more days left. And we do have some very generous anonymous donors who are willing to match any donation that is made to us before the end of March at 100%. So if you make a $50 donation, it'll be worth $100. And if you make a $500 donation, it'll be worth $1,000. So hooray to Lancaster County for flipping another Senate seat for us. It was a man, but we will celebrate that today regardless. And then if you can go to the next slide, I want to get back to our regularly scheduled program. So for those of you who joined us, I'm sure you're well aware that today we're going to be discussing some of the implications of the seemingly nonstop activity in Washington, D.C., and how some of our most extreme Pennsylvania senators are exploring ways to bring those same impossible to believe actions back to Pennsylvania. One of those is a proposal for a Pennsylvania version of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. You can see some of the headlines here on this slide. A couple of other pieces of information that I found as I was preparing for this today. Job applications from federal workers have surged 50% as staff targeted by DOGE run for the exits. And apparently as of February 22nd of this year, about 30,000 workers have either been laid off or fired. So for today's discussion, which we've titled, "Is Pennsylvania Getting Its Own DOGE?" we're excited to feature State Senator Amanda Cappelletti, along with Vicki Miller, who's the group leader for Philadelphia Indivisible. And before I forget, if you can go to the next slide. And keep going. I did want to, in addition to all of the other pieces of information about Senator Cappelletti, I wanted to draw your attention to the last bullet. Senator Cappelletti has been nominated for Emily's List 2025 Gabrielle Gifford's Rising Star Award. To be a nominee, you need to represent the best and brightest in the next generation of leaders who are committed to fighting for their constituents against Republican attacks every day. It celebrates an extraordinary woman serving in state or local office. I know the voting has already closed, but I wanted to wish Senator Cappelletti all the best. I'm sure she's, doing her best every day, and I know she's a winner in our eyes already. So also with us today, we're going to have, if you can go to the next slide, Vicki Miller. She's running a few minutes late today, but will join us. She has worked as a partner attorney at Morgan Lewis for 16 years, and she started the Philadelphia Indivisible group and is its group leader. We're looking forward to hearing from Vicki after we hear from Senator Cappelletti about how we might be able to advocate or rally against some of the ideas and issues that the senator is going to share. Just as a reminder before we get started, you're all invited to share in the chat where you're from and where you're joining us from in particular this morning. In addition, if you have questions for our speakers, please put them in the chat as well. My Represent PA colleagues will try and answer some of them in the chat during the program. And if we don't address them directly in the chat, or if they're more suited for our speakers, we'll hold them for our Q&A session, which we have time for after the two speakers share their thoughts with us. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Senator Cappelletti.
There we go. Oh, good morning, everyone. State Senator Amanda Cappelletti. I represent parts of Delaware and Montgomery Counties. Represent has been an incredible support system for me from the time I ran in 2020 through now, and I see all the messages of voting for the Emily's List Award. Well, thank you all so much. For those of you who don't know, we've had some incredible women from the legislature and from Philadelphia that have been nominated. One who won, former council member Helen Gim was a winner of the award. But Leanne Kruger, Representative Leanne Kruger, Jen O'Mara, Joanna McClinton, they've all been nominated. So I am in some incredible company and so very honored to be included amongst those names. So today we're talking about DOGE, and we're highlighting specifically the version that Doug Mastriano has introduced, because I think that's probably the scariest. He provides a lot of teeth. I do want to highlight first that Senator Kristen Phillips Hill has also introduced legislation. However, hers doesn't necessarily, it's more advisory and doesn't necessarily have the same teeth that Doug Mastriano's does. And so it's not quite as scary as the other stuff that I think we're all thinking of. So Pennsylvania DOGE. I don't think I need to explain to you guys all that it encompasses, because we're watching it play out at the federal level. We are watching people who do very important jobs in our federal government losing their jobs, being fired. We are talking about health and safety of our food through USDA and the Department of Agriculture. We are talking about support systems for veterans. And, for me, that's personally really scary. My dad gets his health care through the VA, and he has a pacemaker. So what does that mean if he loses that? And he is semi-retired, works at Home Depot part-time. What does all of that mean for him and people like him throughout the country, right? We are seeing it happen for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of those really big programs we're seeing dismantled piece by piece because of DOGE and the work that Elon Musk, and I think many of us half jokingly say President Musk, right? What he's doing and what he thinks. I don't even know how to put all of that into words, but his actions are really destroying the foundations that we have had for many, many years, decades. Franklin Delano Roosevelt really created so many of these programs through his administration. During that time of World War II, and Theodore Roosevelt, like the Roosevelts, they really built into this nation these programs as a way to combat, the Great Depression, World War I and World War II, and ensure that we were lifting everybody up and that our economy could succeed. So what is Doug Mastriano's bill doing? So I have it pulled. I have a bunch of stuff pulled up because it is really, really scary. It would basically give the authority of his Pennsylvania DOGE and a quote unquote bipartisan oversight committee. I really, reading through it, I'm not sure that it's really bipartisan. It becomes truly dependent on who's in office, right? Like who's holding the legislature, who is our attorney general at the time, who is our state treasurer, who is our auditor general. These are people that'll be serving. So it becomes, skewed one way or the other. And they have the authority to suspend funding for any programs that they think are wasteful. And he has said outright that the first programs or the first departments that should be that should be audited are education and health and the Human Services Department. So you understand we have two agencies, the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services. Human Services is where a lot of the programming is housed that is truly, transformative for individuals. That's where Medicaid is. That's where we allocate our TANF funds, which is temporary assistance for needy families. That's where a lot of childcare reimbursement and programming comes from. There's so much in health and in human services, rather, that when you're saying you want to audit that, you're saying you want to target individuals that are of need in those systems, and saying, well, you don't deserve whatever deserve means to them. You don't deserve these programs, right? and you don't deserve health care. You don't deserve assistance to help pull yourself up and whatever. And I would argue most of those programs don't do enough to help lift people up or pull people up, however you want to phrase that. But like targeting those things. And that's really, really scary. When I want to take a step back. I said that there is a bipartisan committee, and you heard me say the Auditor General. Do you guys know what the Auditor General does? I see some heads yes and some heads no. You guys, the Auditor General investigates for fraud and waste in our programs all throughout the Commonwealth. How many people remember Auditor General Eugene De Pasquale? A lot of people, yeah, a lot of people remember Eugene, right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what Eugene did as an example of fraud and waste that he found in his time in office. How many of you know what crisis pregnancy centers are? I see some yeses. Absolutely. Okay, so crisis pregnancy centers, for people who don't know, are not centers that help pregnant people. They have people wearing white coats and that make them look like nurses or doctors that are not nurses and doctors, old ultrasound systems. They take little plastic babies and give you the ultrasound and tell you this is what your baby looks like. And when I say little plastic baby, I mean like fully developed head, hands, feet, arms, legs. And you know that at 6, 8, 10 weeks, you do not have all of those things developed. And there are little tails on the fetus, like the development of the embryo in the fetus. Like they lie to pregnant people, tell them they are too far along to get an abortion, shame them into keeping a pregnancy. They set up near abortion centers or centers like Planned Parenthood that would provide the full spectrum and truthfully represent where somebody is in their pregnancy and what their options are without judgment and without pushing anybody to do one thing or the other. They do the other thing. So in saying that, there is a parent company that funds these that is called Real Alternatives. Real Alternatives exists all throughout our country. For a long, long period of time, Pennsylvania gave over $7 million a year to Real Alternatives to do that work. And Eugene De Pasquale, as Auditor General, found that they were defrauding Pennsylvanians by taking our taxpayer dollars, doing some funny things in their books, and then taking our money and investing it elsewhere to expand their services in other states. He found that out. When that became public knowledge, other states followed suit in investigating them and pulled state funding, like Michigan. Pennsylvania continued to fund them until our current governor, Josh Shapiro, pulled that funding and was able to reissue a request for proposal on what it means to actually provide services to pregnant people. Now, granted, it's taxpayer dollars, so this isn't necessarily abortion care, but care for people who do the work, who do want to keep their pregnancy, who want to see it through, but need assistance, right? They need additional assistance, whether that's seeking care, if they need diapers, all of those different pieces. And that has been done, and our governor has pulled the funding from them. But we only knew about that because we already have somebody investigating, I want to say fraud and waste. I'm trying to combine the two words. Oh my goodness. I was going to say freest. So we already have somebody doing this work. So this would not be efficient. It would be duplicative. We don't need it. Our current Auditor General is a Republican and has found that there are issues with the way that cyber charter schools are using our funds. He has issued that report in a bipartisan way. These reports are coming out and they are finding where real waste exists, not searching under a rock for something that doesn't exist, just to be angry at the fact that we spend money on helping individuals who need a little bit of assistance at a difficult time in their life. So that's what Doug Mastriano's thing would do. He's looking to defund and to shut down the Department of Education, similar to the health and to the human services. He is doing exactly what Elon Musk is doing at the federal level. That's what he wants. What I want everyone to know is that we are making strides. You heard about our wonderful win in Lancaster County. I am excited to add James Malone to our caucus. Would I love to see more women? Absolutely. I think 2026 will bring us that. But we're lucky we don't have to worry in this moment about that legislation moving, because we know, number one, our governor would never sign it. And we know, number two, Speaker McClinton would never allow that bill to come up for a vote in the House anyway. Absolutely not. But we can only continue to do this with the help of you guys, right? Like, we need to continue to push so that it's not just a 1-seat majority in the House. We need to push so that we can flip the Senate. And let me tell you, there are 3 seats in the state Senate where their margins are a lot smaller than they were for James Malone. We have the ability to do this. And once we do that, we don't need to worry about what Doug Mastriano is putting out. We won't have to concern. He can put out whatever memo he wants. It will never come to a vote in either chamber. It will not be a debate. We need to push that forward. And then not only is it pushing it forward to stop Doug, it's pushing it forward because we can do the real work of ensuring that cyber charter schools are held accountable, and that we can take that money when we address the fraud that's happening there and the waste that's happening there and reinvest them into our public schools. Just like Josh Shapiro was able to do with that money from Real Alternatives, reinvest it into our communities and organizations who actually know what the pregnant communities need, who are actually doing the work. They are on the ground doing the work. They know the people who need the support and the services. We can continue to do that. We can flip who our Auditor General is and make sure that they are targeting the right programs for review, and ensuring that we are using our taxpayer dollars wisely to support people who need it, to grow our economy in a variety of ways. There is so much good that we can do, but we can only do it when you guys help us out, whether it's by donating $5, $10, whatever you might be able to do, or making calls and knocking doors. Because let me tell you something, those making calls and knocking doors made a huge difference in Senate District 36, which is that Lancaster County seat, and adding a new colleague for me to have in the Senate, which I am so grateful for. So all of those things add up. All of those things matter. And that is how we stop Doug Mastriano, Kristen Phillips-Hill, and to be frank, the loonies from the right. There's a couple of them, let me tell you, that are really far out there. I have colleagues, don't get me wrong, that I've been able to work with, but there are some really far out there people over there that are aligned with this MAGA craziness that is happening and want to bring it here to Pennsylvania. Lancaster said no, and we will absolutely keep pushing to make sure it's not just Lancaster, but it's all 67 counties that tell our Republican colleagues in DC, we're not putting up with this.
Thank you, Senator Cappelletti. Can feel your passion and hear it and really appreciate it. I also just wanted, before we move over, Vicki, to you, I see that you did join us, so thanks for being here. I just wanted to also let some folks know about some other things that are happening in the Senate. I'm sure Senator Cappelletti is aware of this, but like the hard work that she's doing, I wanted to shout out the work of Senator Maria Collette. So last week, Senator Collette held a town hall in her district to discuss the impact of the federal budget cuts on her constituents, and also, heard from them and shared with them some of what those cuts mean when it comes to Medicaid, SNAP, CHIP, slashing of medical research funding that we're all reading about in the paper, and also healthcare infrastructure and what we can do to fight back. And then just 2 days ago, she also announced plans to introduce legislation to also kind of combat this, what I would say is a hands-off attorney general that we've got right now in Mr. Sunday. And she's proposing to set up an office of Solicitor General, which would ensure that Pennsylvania citizens are defended in court when our Auditor General fails or declines to act. Because our Attorney General, sorry, I keep saying Auditor General, it's Attorney General in this case, has made it clear that he has little interest in standing up to anything that is happening and coming out of the Trump administration and all of the violations. So a quote from Maria was that the people of Pennsylvania deserve competent and capable counsel. representing their interests and their threats, coming from the state or federal bad actors. And as we all face the ongoing attacks to our system of checks and balances, the creation of the Office of Solicitor General will act as a necessary guardrail, ready to fight on our behalf. So with that, and I don't know, Senator Cappelletti, if you want to say anything else about that.
Sure. So if I remember we talked about this in Harrisburg, we were in session this week, and she brought this up during caucus when we're all talking about what's going on. If I remember correctly, this would be housed under the purview of the governor to be able to get this done. And we know with this governor, he would absolutely make sure, because unfortunately, this isn't just about policy difference anymore. I think you guys know that. Like, we are in a state of we need to, this is social norms, this is the legal norms, all of these things are starting to fall by the wayside. And if our elected Republicans who are seemingly, and I have been told by many people that Attorney General Sunday is, he's not that, he's not MAGA, he's not that, but he also doesn't have a backbone. He's not standing up and actually doing what is right, because we had to have the governor sue about our contracts and fulfilling our contracts and getting our millions of dollars and billions of dollars from the federal government that was already agreed to us, right? And now we're seeing our governor suing again over programs for our farmers that support our food pantries, where they can buy fresh, they participate where they buy fresh and local foods that aren't being sold from the farmers into the grocery market and economy. They're able to sell it to our pantries so that people who are in need and can't go to the grocery market, which is growing. I know that list of people is growing, and you know that. But as that need continues to grow, then what we are doing, what's happening is they need more and more fresh fruits and vegetables to serve those people with, right? So our governor is suing. It's not our attorney general. Our governor is doing that work. This is basic programming that, A, does good work, but B, I don't know how completely legal it is. Like the constitutionality of what this administration, the federal administration, is doing, because they're just ending contracts before they're up. They're ignoring basic laws and the Constitution on so many different levels. So this isn't policy difference. This is, are you complying with the law? That applies nonpartisanly. So that is really the target of what we're doing, because we absolutely know our attorney general, he might not be part of the MAGA crowd, but he doesn't have a spine. He's not standing up and signing on to these lawsuits that he knows legally we should be doing. So I am grateful for the leadership of Senator Collette. She is an incredible friend and mentor of mine in the Senate. And I'm proud of her for coming up with this and moving forward with this. And I wholeheartedly support her.
Thank you for adding that information. And so now we'll turn the program over to Vicki Miller. Welcome, Vicki. Happy that you were able to join us. As again, Vicki is the group leader for Indivisible Philadelphia. And based on some of the things that we've already heard from Senator Cappelletti, we're hoping that she's going to help us figure out how to become activists and fight back where we can, and, raise our voices and maybe write some postcards.
That's great. Thank you, Heidi. Yes. So hi, I'm in Philadelphia. Obviously, Indivisible Philadelphia is here. And so thank you for inviting me. It's wonderful to see everybody today, and I'm just delighted to be here. So I would say what we do is we do two basic things. We have a lot of voter outreach to get out the votes, and then we also hold our elected officials accountable. So for the first part, for reaching out to voters, we of course canvass. We also have a 35 Doors program where we ask our volunteers to canvass to 35 of the homes in their neighborhood. And we give them the list of doors to knock and all the materials they need to have a successful canvass. Many of those folks, of course, knock a lot more than 35 doors, but 35 is sort of the minimum. The nice thing about that is that people can go whenever they want, whenever it suits their schedule. You can go do half your list on a Thursday and the other half on Saturday, or whatever you would like to do. So we have a lot of a different sort of cohort of people for the 35 Doors people, younger people, people still working with young kids, that kind of thing. We also write postcards. In fact, next week we are announcing our next postcard project. And this project will be writing to homes where we have identified that there is no registered voter. And so these are voter registration postcards telling people how they can sign up to vote and where they should go to register. And we give them a QR code and links and that sort of thing. We also do voter registration. And we're gearing up to start doing that again, starting in the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the primary. We also do phone banking, and we, of course, have educational meetings. So those are the basics that we do to reach out to voters. I will say, when Mastriano was running for governor, we canvassed every Saturday and every Sunday for 6 months to help get Governor Shapiro elected. So that's the sort of thing that we do. The second part, which is holding elected officials accountable, is making phone calls, writing letters to the editor to identify what they are doing and how they are voting in a bad way. And then we also post those on social media. We have a new, very robust letters to the editor group, and they are doing a magnificent job and getting a lot of letters published. We also will call our state representatives. We will call, if this bill somehow makes it out of the Senate, well, I guess it would make it out of the Senate. We would be making a lot of phone calls. Even before the vote, we would be calling Senate leadership. Of course, we would be calling our senators. Of course, in Philadelphia, our senators, all but one, I believe, are Democrats. So we call and make sure that they are going to vote against it. Pretty standard that they will vote against it. But we just call and let them know that we are behind them, and we thank them for when they do vote the right way. We call and thank them. It's always good to do that, because I think they don't hear a lot of thanks. They hear complaints. Anyway, so we will be doing all of that if this bill goes through. We do this on a regular basis anyway. We do it mostly, I would say, to federal officials, but then when there's something getting a lot of attention in the state, we turn our attention to the state issues. This year, of course, we have the very, very critical judicial elections. So we are gearing up for that. We're going to have meetings about the judges and about how courts work, just to educate our membership so that they understand the importance of this, and then start telling voters. Because people don't like to vote for judges generally. And so we need to give them the information that they can use to be able to go vote and feel confident about who they're voting for. They're typically extremely appreciative of this, because most people don't go and do all the research it takes to find out which judges are worthy of their vote. And then in November, of course, we have the highly important retention elections, and we will be out canvassing, and our 35 Doors people will be actively engaged canvassing in their neighborhoods, and we will be doing a lot of work to get the Democrats back in office, or continuing in office. Right now, in addition to all of that, because of what's happening in Washington, we are holding numerous rallies. And we have one that we hold every Friday. It's focused on Senator Fetterman. Many people are not particularly happy with him right now, and so we are trying to encourage him to come out against some of these horrible things, and to back when the cabinet picks were being nominated, we were strongly asking him to vote no on those picks. He only voted no. He only voted yes on 3 of them, so that was disappointing. But we are still contacting him and holding him accountable as best we can. And the rallies are focused on him as well. With the people come to rallies actually write letters, and then they get delivered to his office. Also, let me see. And the last is April 5th. There is a nationwide rally, a nationwide day of protest. So it is you can find one in your area. In Philadelphia, we're having a very large one. It will be on Independence Mall. And I strongly encourage you to attend right now, because the Republicans in the federal government seem ill-equipped to stand up to everything that is happening. The Democrats are in the minority. I think they are getting stronger now after a lot of us have made a big stink about them not taking much action. They are starting to turn around on that. And so we're happy to see that. That's starting to work. All of the outrage over their lack of being strong about this and just saying, well, we're in the minority, what can we do? So that's a good sign. However, at the end of the day, and the courts are doing fairly well, but the court process takes a while. So what is left is us. We are the answer. And getting out and publicly showing that you will not stand for this and you are against what they are doing is really more important than ever. We're not used to having to do that in this country. We're really not. We can make phone calls. We expect the courts to take action and all of that. And that's happening. But us being out protesting is like nothing else that there is. We saw in Turkey, the president of Turkey arrested and imprisoned his biggest political rival in the next election, illegally, of course. 300,000 people turned out immediately in the streets to protest. This is what has to happen around the country, and it has to happen here. And so I would encourage you to find something near you. There are also Tesla protests everywhere. You may have seen that. And there are quite a few. We don't have any Tesla dealerships in Philadelphia, so we're not doing it right here. Our first folks are going out to the suburbs to join the protests. They're generally on Saturdays. People tend to have a lot of fun, and there are hundreds and hundreds of people now. The numbers are growing every week. So anyway, so that's my pitch on getting out there and, you know, have fun, make a sign. It's actually really nice to be out and around people. So, but next Saturday, April 5th is going to be a big one. So we encourage you to find one near you and come out. And if you're near Philadelphia, come on into Philly. We have music scheduled. We have great speakers. It's going to be a very good rally.
Vicki, thank you. That was really helpful. And I think a lot of folks in the chat have some detailed questions for you about, you know, how much effort does it take to write a postcard? How many words are you expecting? How do you find rallies in other states? You know, more information about access to the events regarding Fetterman. I don't know if you can address any of those.
Sure. I see someone also saying they're going to DC for April 5th. That's fine. The idea is that there's an enormous amount of people in DC. So if you want to go to DC, that's wonderful. So no problem. I'm jealous, but you know, that's okay. Going to DC is good. Also, let me see the weekly events for Fetterman. Yeah, they're every Friday. If you want, I can put in the chat. You can sign up for our newsletter and you'll see everything that's happening, all the protests and all of the, let me just get my act together here.
It looks like Tiffany may have just helped you out with
the great
Philly rally.
There's
a link in there for the Mobilize
information. Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. And I'll just put in here the link to sign up to get our newsletter. And then there we go. And you can sign up for our newsletter and then you will see everything. I have a link in the current one for the rallies around the country. I have to find it though. Indivisible came out with one. But this one, this one that's happening on April 5th, and I believe it's going to continue. There are like 50 organizations in a big coalition organizing this. It's really quite something. And so they should be great all over the country. When does the April 5th rally begin? In Philadelphia, it begins at noon. Most of them, I believe, are beginning at noon. We are beginning at noon at City Hall. So far we have 3,000 people signed up, and I have a meeting tomorrow with the police to make sure that we can, the apron around City Hall will fit us in a safe way. And then we're marching down Market Street to Independence Mall, which is where the main rally is going to, which is where the speakers are going to be, the stage, all of that. So you can either come and just meet the marchers at Independence Mall, or you can come to City Hall and march, which will be fun too. So we have music, we have a drum line, and I think we'll have other music also. So and then we have music during the rally and afterward, and and so that people have an uplifting moment, because these are heavy topics. These are very heavy topics, and we have speakers who are federal employees who have been let go and who have been fired, and healthcare workers and things like that. So we're going to tell us the effects of it. So anyway, but being out there, is there a clear ask on April 5th? Yes. So the title of these rallies is Hands Off. We want DOGE to end. That is the ask. We want them out. We want Musk out. We want DOGE out. We want it to stop. And then, of course, I'd like to see everything that they've done reversed, which will be much harder. But it's hands off, and then all these different topics, and we have speakers, hands off our Social Security, hands off our Medicare, hands off our Medicaid, hands off the environment, hands off, our lands, hands off all kinds of things. So Congressman Boyle is going to be there. He's going to speak to Social Security and Medicare because he's on the Budget Committee. Representative Rabb is going to be there to speak. He's going to talk about the impacts on the state. And then we have other folks who are directly involved in what's happening in all these different, not every single topic, but just most every topic area. Oh, thank you, Todd. Thank you. He put the general one in for Indivisible, where you can see all of the ones that are happening around the country. Great, thank you.
Vicki, thanks. I want to just make a
enough.
comment and then hand off, basically back to this group to open up the session for all kinds of other questions. One thing I wanted to come back to Senator Cappelletti about, if that's okay, is just an update on how things are going in Harrisburg on discussions related to, getting closer to an approved budget. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
No, you won't have any insight in that until June. We finished the negotiations there. If we're lucky, or not the negotiations, the committee hearings, the budget hearings, to talk to the administration about why they think this, that, or the other. We won't know much more until June, and probably, I'm not sure what this year is going to look like, right? Because so many of our programs, we are a pass-through. States are a pass-through for federal money. So like there's going to be a lot that is going to change from what we talked about in February and the beginning of this month in March to what we're actually going to do, because we are not going to have the funds that we essentially would normally have under normal circumstances, right? The Medicaid funds, the TANF, WIC funds, you name it. Like there's a lot in there. So I don't know. I don't even know if it'll get done by June, because there is going to be a lot of hammering out and rehammering out. And then unfortunately, there's only so much time, so much money, that we have to be able to backfill. And I keep telling everybody, I believe we're going to end up triaging. That is how I'm looking at it. If you've worked in the healthcare field, triaging is you figure out who the worst of the worst is, who can be saved and who can't be saved. And moving from there, it is, you are basically deciding who lives, and this is basically deciding what programs can live, and can they live on a shoestring for a few months and life support essentially for a few months with what I say little money. It sounds funny because we're talking about billions of dollars, but like what little money we have to be able to backfill the hundreds of billions of dollars we're not going to be getting.
Anything going on with the distribution of the money from the opioid settlements that might be able to be used?
Those have very specific requirements on how that money gets used. Okay. And I don't know a lot about what's going on there yet. I do have an ask in to figure out what's happening. I've been asked about somebody else has asked something specific, but those have very specific legal requirements. So I don't know if we're going to be able to pull from that at all.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else that folks want to ask? I'm trying to scroll back through the chat and see if I've missed anything. Feel free to come off mic and ask a question.
I have a question.
Go for
I
it.
put it in the chat, but I have, after a stroke, sometimes my typing is not great, so it doesn't come out right. My husband picked up a video, he doesn't remember from where, and it was chilling. An Oklahoma student, foreign student from Turkey, was picked up off the streets by maxed ICE agents. They were not revealed who they were. They were all in black with either black hood coverings. What do you call them? The eyes show, but nothing else. And picked her up off the street, tied her hands behind her back, and put her in a car. She has been disappeared, quote unquote, like the Argentinians were back in the 80s. Her lawyer cannot find her. No contact with her, cannot find out where she is. She had apparently, which was her undoing, wrote an article in the Oklahoma University newspaper about defunding their investments from Israel. She's Turkish. Not a smart thing to do, obviously. My question is, this video is chilling. I don't know where he got it. I wish he, but it's what happened to Jews in Germany. It is what is happening apparently to, we're reading about the Columbia student detained, sent somewhere. And of course, it doesn't play well with the public because they're foreigners. And we know more than 50% of the American public does not like foreigners. Of course, they're too dumb to realize their own history. That's where we all came from. But this video, I mean, should be used and saying, what is to prevent ICE from doing this to anyone? Anyone. There was no accountability. She was on a F1 visa from what was reported. She was legal. She did something stupid. But where is the protection? I don't think there's protection against native-born Americans, American citizens. And of course, now we're up to, if you're born here, you're not legal now. They're trying that one out.
Mm-hmm. So she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything stupid, Linda. She exercised her.
I don't mean stupid,
right.
and let's be practical. I don't mean stupid. It was
sure. No, but I want us to be careful about our language because we don't want to legitimize what they're doing. So she exercised her First Amendment right, and they have illegally detained her. And you're absolutely right. This is horrific. Her First Amendment right is to be able to, write that article. She is allowed to have that point of view in America. She has been, and that is. I mean, we have some senators who have done, who have some legislation to try and address some of this stuff, but at the end of the day, the scary part is this administration isn't following what the courts are saying anyway. So we have to continue to fight back. We have to continue to raise our voices, continue to use the court systems where we can, and try and force something. I don't know what that enforcement looks like. There are legal scholars and people with greater minds than I that are figuring out and working on this, but please know, absolutely, we know this is happening. We're watching it, not just on video, like we are seeing it, and we just have to keep raising our voices, keep putting it out there, because I've seen that video as well. That it is horrific.
Thank you. I think this is a tough topic because, again, there's not a whole lot within our control, but I appreciate that it was raised. I think that everybody's going to be interested in seeing how this plays out. In the meantime, I want to thank everybody. I'm going to give us a little bit of time back, but Tiffany, if you can pull up our last slide, I just want to reiterate the importance that Represent PA has been playing in education and bringing this kind of information to its supporters. Again, as a reminder, we're in the very end of our March History Month match push. We do have a nice amount of money that will match your donations. So if you have the ability to send us a donation, it will help a lot of the effort that we work on in our 2-year cycles to get more Democratic progressive women elected up into Harrisburg, so that there are people like Senator Cappelletti and others who can fight for us every day. And I also just wanted to acknowledge that at least 2 that I've seen, 2 of our former candidates were joining us today, Hadley Haas and Elizabeth Morrow, hoping that women like them or them again, maybe give it another shot next time around. But without a lot of money in this state in particular, women are always behind the 8 ball, and the donations that come in to Represent PA really help give any of these candidates a leg up and keep them legitimate in the public's eye, get their name recognition out there. So we appreciate everything that you do. We're so happy that you joined us today. A big thank you to Senator Cappelletti and to Vicki Miller for joining us as well and sharing their insights. And with that, I'll say thank you and give you 10 minutes back. Have a great day.
Please note people can save off the chat by hitting the little ellipsis and hitting save chat if you want to save some of the information that people are chatting about.
Great. That's a good point. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.